Today's horror story is slightly more light-hearted, at least from the outside looking in. Character inspiration comes from many places and can take many forms. Many characters that we play are inspired by the media and culture we consume and are exposed to. My characters, for example, have been, very obviously, inspired by Davy Jones and the legend of the Wendigo. So to read a story where a character's inspiration alone was the cause of a group to collapse was a must-see for me. This is for entertainment purposes only and it's not a witch hunt for any of the parties involved. Reddit stories are often very one-sided and this is just a YouTube video. I don't claim to be judge, jury or executioner. Some time ago, a game master that I played with on several occasions said that he wanted to give Pathfinder 1st edition one final hurrah for a campaign. So he said he wanted to have a campaign based around an idea of something he's wanted to do for quite some time. The idea was that we pick 3 classes. The first class would be our main class and we would start at level 3 but only go up to level 15. Our secondary class we would start out at level 2 but we can only go up to level 10. And finally, our third class we would start out at level 1 and we would only be able to go up to level 5. I've never really played Pathfinder but this sounds like a fun idea. The idea of forcing some sort of multi-classing to experience the diversity of what the system has to offer is really promising and actually something I'd like to try for a one-shot or short campaign someday. What a great idea. I've never played Pathfinder before, so I'd be really interested to know what the level cap is, because right now it seems to be a lot higher from D&D. So the equivalent might be 10 levels of Class 1, 7 of Class 2, and 3 of Class 3, but I might just be misunderstanding how leveling works in Pathfinder. This I saw as an interesting take on the system, and I decided that I was going to take advantage of this to play a character concept I've always had, but never really had the opportunity to because of the complexity in which I wanted to play it. I'm a fan of professional wrestling, and having grown up around it and worked for a promotion in my early days of college, I got the idea for a character that was a type of professional wrestler, mixing with a little bit of what actually happens backstage and my own context. Honestly, this idea sounds awesome. I love the idea of a luchador, Undertaker, or Kofi Kingston style ringer who showboats around in fights and does these crazy moves. Imagine dropping the tombstone or RKO on the final goblin in an encounter. This also sounds from an RP perspective, to either have this character with an inside and outside of the ring personality, or one deeply set in the role and or delusion of wrestling. I might actually play this sort of character in the right campaign setting. It would be made even better if there was a type of Colosseum style gladiator setting for them to fight in, or an underground illegal fighting club. So I went with a brawler, mesmerist enigma archetype and a rogue. One of my character's things was that he was known as the Lantern Man Brandon Jack, as he would always walk around with a lantern, and his main weapon was a club that was wrapped in barbed wire. First thing that this brings to mind is Jax from League of Legends, mixed with Negan from The Walking Dead. Still sick and a really unique character to bring into the world. I'm loving the concept so far. He would go from town to town making his money in prize fights and preaching the word of his goddess. The thing is, his goddess didn't actually exist and he didn't actually possess divine magic. He managed to gather disciples because he was able to get into people's heads, and he thought this entire time that the lantern was magical and it was a gift from his goddess, and believed violence was a religious experience. This is amazing. The level of delusion to almost be in character, Inception style, all the time is a really clever way to subvert the expectations of what your class might be. I told the game master my character concept and he approved and loved the idea because in his own custom setting he had a city that held a lot of prize fights, but players tended to not go to that area, so he was quite excited to have that sort of character in his game. And you've solved a huge problem a lot of DMs have. You want to explore a whole area of the world and setting, but you're unable to because either the party doesn't have a reason to go there, or you just haven't found the right opportunity yet. I love when players' characters can also solve an issue the DM has been having with enjoying their own setting, plus respect. The other 4 players in the Game Master really enjoyed my character. I would preach in a promo-type fashion and use violence as a way of showing the power that my god grants me. Perfect characterization and mixing RP and combat. No wonder the whole table was on board. After about 12 sessions, we were about halfway there to our level cap. Instead of playing in the store we usually did, one of the players suggested that we go to his house since the game store we would normally go to was packed because of some Magic the Gathering release. This is pretty standard stuff so far, in all honesty. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how the horror story arises here. So we head to this player's house and we play for several hours. It starts raining pretty heavily. So this player told us that we can leave when the rain stops a little bit after midnight. That must have been a pretty crazy storm. The host graciously put several frozen pizzas in the oven so we can eat. Very kind of them to do that. However, the host said that since we were done playing, he wanted to know if it was okay if we broke away and did our own things, and if it was okay with anyone else that he put on Backlash. 3 of us wanted to watch the show, while the other 3 were not fans of wrestling, so decided to have a 3-way Warhammer game instead. That's pretty reasonable stuff, honestly. I'd be super burnt out after several hours of TTRPGs and would probably want to just curl up under a blanket away from everyone. Being able to speak about everyone's wants and needs and splitting off into these separate groups is reasonable at this point. I'd probably be watching Backlash too, because going straight into Warhammer would burn my battery for TTRPGs and tabletop games into the ground. Because we were asked to stay in the game room, they moved the table a little further away from us so that they could have their game. So long as we kept the TV down low enough that they can hear themselves and we could hear what else was happening. Again, adults sorting things out by talking and coming to solutions. Big money movements. Nice one. During the show, a wrestler who went by the name Bray Wyatt walks out. One of the part of his gimmick is that he walks around with a lantern, and he has a habit of speaking in a peculiar manner. One of the people watching with me cracks a joke about my character. For some reason, the game master stops playing Warhammer and comes over to the TV and looks at the entrance and then looks at me. He looks at me like I just betrayed him, and he says something that I can't really forget. Are you serious right now? This is what you base your character on? A wrestler? How could you do this to me? You know I hate wrestling, and you made a character inspired by a wrestler? Okay, now we're cooking. So actually watching wrestling with the rest of the group in the same room wasn't enough to trigger some sort of response like, please could we have something else on? But the fact that a character was somewhat based on the wrestler is like being stabbed in the back like Julius Caesar or something. Also, it seems a little bit strange that the setting has prize ring fights with showboating, but wrestling, that's a step too far. Wrestling is like the prize fight. I just imagine if he was watching a movie with The Rock in or something and he just skips every single scene where he shows up. I told him that I didn't just base a character on one particular wrestler. I based it on 3 particular wrestlers. Okay, shouldn't laugh, but actually to say that it was 3 wrestlers, not 1, is hilarious. Secondly, he didn't have a problem with the character beforehand. And a good point. A good character is a good character, although there are some caveats. If something is genuinely traumatic, then having that be the secret inspiration for your character could be a little bit demeaning, triggering, and inconsiderate. Or having something in real life that is evil, racist, homophobic, sexist be the inspiration, then that is grounds for disapproval. But he went on to write that the DM just said he doesn't like professional wrestling and thinks it's stupid, which is a bit unfair to me. I'm not a massive fan of certain popular movies that I won't say the name of for fear of dislike bombing, but I'm never going to tell someone that they can't have their character be inspired by them. The characters aren't equal to their inspiration. He then went on a tirade about if he knew what inspired the character, he would never have allowed it because he doesn't like professional wrestling and thinks it's stupid and doesn't really understand why people enjoy it and thinks that it's stupid that people enjoy it. It's a bit peak to call people stupid for enjoying a huge form of entertainment, and a massive shame because the prize fight setting seemed so perfect for the wrestling character. I'm genuinely sad that this turned out this way. This went on for a good 10 minutes. During this, one of the other players came to my defense and said that even though he doesn't like wrestling, he wasn't asked what inspired the character he created and doesn't see why it should matter. It's good you had a little bit of backup, and I'm glad someone came to your defense, but once an argument like this breaks out, it's like beating a dead horse. It seems really unreasonable to expect to have to veto and vet every single one of your inspiration ideas just in case the DM thinks that it's stupid. This was not a good defense in the eyes of the game master, who went on a tirade and basically told them to leave the game. Valid. ×2. The game master left in a rage. I don't know anyone who feels this strongly about any form of popular entertainment or media. The rage quit here goes crazy. The mood of the night was kind of ruined for about 10 minutes until we came to the epiphany that the entire plot was Final Fantasy X. That's funny because FFX was actually sponsored by Royal Rumble way back when. Ironic, really. After that, we had a good laugh ourselves. We should have realised it earlier on. We contacted him a week later to see if he was okay, and we were told that he never wanted to play with us again. Well, it seems like it worked itself out naturally. I genuinely can't believe that the whole group fell apart because of your selfish decision to be inspired by entertainment that you enjoyed and had no idea that the GM felt so strongly about. Personally, I love the idea of the character and think it fit really nicely into the world. If you find you have trouble making your characters fit into your DM's worlds, then check out this video here where I walk you through the process of making a D&D character. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more D&D content, and comment your own D&D horror story down below if you want me to read and react to it. I'll see you next time.